All righty. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Hey, welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here with you today. Today's episode is kind of a part two to a previous episode that we did 5 episodes ago. If you remember, dating back, we had a case study that we kind of broke down to after the July Note Buying for Dummies workshop. We did an episode on infinite returns, how to make infinite returns, with performing notes. And it was basically it's an episode on a deal that we came across while working through a tape during our workshop. It was a property in Toledo, Ohio. This is a previous photo of it from June of 2023. And then this was an updated photo of the property after the current note holder obviously rehabbed it, did some work to it, and then sold it on owner financing. And one of the great things about it, it was a performing note, just to give you a bit of the details again, of it $106,000 UPB, $110,000 sales price. The bar brought about $2,000 to the table, so not a lot of money, not a lot of skin in the game to the table. It was originated back in March of this year, March 28th, 30-year, 8.9% interest rate. The P&I payment is $845.71 a month. The RMLO it was done through an RMLO, third-party service Allied, and they're looking to sell it at $44.7. Okay, now that's not bad. I mean, I'm like, wow, that's really at 40 cents on the dollar, give or take a little bit, right? And so we're like, oh, that's not so bad. $845 a month, that's pretty good. Now, the thing that concerns me is the previous value was like $56,000, and obviously that's the valuation before the rehab and then selling on terms. Now, is the 106, $110,000 sales price a little escalated? Yes, we talked about that. Current market rent's about $1,000 a month. And like I said, they're selling it at the old fair market value price of being at 56. That's at 80% at the 46,000, okay? Or 42% of the UPB. If you take the 845.71 a month P&I payments times 12, that comes to $10,000 plus a month. Annual cash flow. And that based on the purchase price of 46 is at 22.7% ROI. Not bad, right? And then we dove into kind of going through the numbers of it. So what I did is I made an offer, right? I went and made an offer immediately on that Saturday night after the class, and I submitted an offer. And they said, the seller obviously said on the tape that it was performing and that they were flexible on it. So I was like, well, okay, what do the numbers look like if I dive into a little bit differently? If I get, instead of at 46, I make an offer, say at 40, right? So let me pull this back up because I've got the spreadsheet that you guys loved. So you can kind of see where we're going about making the if it returns, because if we're buying it at a good price, right? All right, there we go. Just trying to get my screen's all acting confused. All right, so this is the spreadsheet once again here. Let me move some stuff over here. Why is mine on here twice? But anyway. All right, so come on, move my face. So they said flexible, newly originated. I didn't like the 56, so I said, okay, let me make an offer at 40. Well, the 40 turns into a pretty good yield. Now, if I'm borrowing money, all right, here we go. So if I'm borrowing 40 and I have 8% money cost, that means I'm paying $3,200 a year. If I'm paying 12%, I'm paying $4,800 a year, right? And after I pay my monthly, if I receive my monthly payments and then pay my investors their interest rate, I'm going to cash flow anywhere from $445 a month on a 12% investor, all the way up to just under $580 a month with an 8% investor, which is great, which is phenomenal. That's phenomenal, right? But if they're not performing, then I have to worry about foreclosing, right? And the foreclosure could be pretty good. If my purchase price was originally 45, if I change that to 40, then my costs go down, obviously, a little bit. My total cost would be about 47 and change. I mean, if I got to pay a prepayment penalty to my investor for 1 year of interest, okay, there's that. The foreclosure cost about $3,500 in Ohio. I'm in at 47. If it truly is worth 110, then I'm going to net 99 minus my 47. I'm still going to net about 51, right? Now, if the borrower stays in the house and keeps paying, and then they refinance me out after 5 years, the UPB after 5 years is 101,604. That's still a $61,000 profit. That's a pretty good day after getting anywhere from 5,000 to just under 7,000 in cash flow. And that's just under 27,000 to 35,000 in 5 years of cash flow. So this could be a really good deal with two caveats. One, the value sticks, and two, the borrower's paying on time, right? So I made an offer, all right? Made an offer, and it was crickets for 2 weeks. I even tracked down the owner, emailed them directly to their website, found an email, sent an email to their sales thing. No, nothing. For crickets for 2 weeks. Okay. It's like, well, crap, I'm not going to get this deal. Who knows, right? But suddenly on the blue, on last Thursday, I get a message, hey, there's an update. Seller's interested in my offer. And I'm like, oh, okay. So they literally send me a collateral file, a Google Doc with all the collateral in it and stuff like that for due diligence. Now, I wasn't going to order a BPO until I knew an offer was accepted. And they came back and he said, okay, yeah, if you're going to be solid at 40, we'll continue. I'm like, oh, they're going to accept 40. That's kind of a good thing, right? So they send the files over to me, and I start looking at the files. Okay, so let's dive in that so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. And if you're listening to this episode, you will probably want to check out the video, on our YouTube channel, WeCloseNotes.tv. If not, I hopefully am going to share enough information in this that you maybe don't need to do that. But anyway, let's see here. Let's go over to a file folder. Okay, I had it pulled up here a second ago. These are all spreadsheets. Oh, spreadsheets. Let me just go back to. Oh, here we go. Boom, share that. And let's go over here to the file folder. Okay. I think you can see it now. All right, perfect. Okay, so we're going to share this. So I get this file folder, and it doesn't look bad. And it's dated, last modified was June 25th, which was basically 2 weeks ago. They give the borrower underwriting, property insurance, closing documents, title insurance, the valuation, and servicing history. Okay, so the first thing I want to look at is let's look at the valuation. Let's look at what they came up with, a BPO number. All right, so if I'm going to click on the valuation, it gives me an exterior BPO, which I like. Okay. And looking at this exterior BPO, I'm scrolling through it, and they say the value, 90-day marketing. Now, let's look at the date of this. This is December of last year, okay? So it's 8 months, 9 months, December 23rd, so 8.5 months old, okay? And the subject property here is the subject property, and they give it a value. Look at this, as repaired, price estimate, somewhere around 56 to 61, not 110,000. Okay. Now that could still be old based on previous stuff, because this is December before the note was sold on terms in March. Okay. So we'll just say a $60,000 value is what they say. Okay, 60. And if they want to sell the note at 40, I'm at 66 cents on the dollar. Okay, it's still not bad for the performing note, right? If there is equity above it, and there's actually, this is negative equity. The borrower has negative equity, right? They owe 106,000. Okay, so the BPO, would I order another one? Yeah, I'll still go ahead and order another one just for the heck of it, because you can't trust something 9 months old, basically. Okay, so we've gone there. Let's go back here. Let's look at the servicing history, which is very important. Let's make sure. And I see, okay, it's with Allied, which is good. They said that. Last modified here was August 4th. Okay, so here's August 4th payment history. Let's look here. Let's see if they've made any payments. Okay. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, wait a second. If I'm going to see a payment, so I see payments here from basically, there's not that much. So I see dates. When you look at a servicing history, you want to look dates. Okay. And I see a date for June, July 30th. So they haven't been there very often. And I don't see anything on the principal balance side. I see zero on the principal balance side, but I don't do other things, other amounts here. And I start seeing late charges. Well, if a borrower is paying on time, they shouldn't have a late charge. But I'm seeing the principal balance is still 106,054. Remember, that's what was advertised as the UPB from March of this year. If that borrower has made 5 months of payments, the UPB should not be 106,054. It should be 105 something, 104 something. So that's a red flag. Like, oh, wait a second. Now I can understand, okay, maybe they're self-servicing. and they're transferred over to help sell the note, which is a good thing to do. I'm like, okay, all right, maybe that's the case. Maybe they're just moving it over to take a look at it. And I'm going to click, okay, let's look at this other payment history and see if there's any more dates. Now it says May 1st, June 1st. No, nothing. Still 106054. So then I'm like, okay, so I inquire back to the seller on this one and say, listen, hey, I'm not seeing any payments being made on this. You listed it as a performing note. I'm not seeing any making payments. And that's when the seller discloses. First and foremost, let me say that. They say, hey, we apologize. Apologize for not getting back to you. Somebody else had it under contract, and we gave them 2 weeks to close on it, and they didn't follow through. And I'm like, okay, that I can understand that. That makes sense. Totally makes sense. And I asked him after looking at this back in, I'm like, well, the things that come to my mind, and I don't know if they come to your mind, why didn't they close? If they were going to buy it at 46, which was supposed to be such a great deal, why didn't they go and close on it? Because it was listed as performing, right? Well, guess what? It's not performing. It's not performing at all. And they said, well, the bar wanted to reduce the value, reduce the bid dramatically, and they didn't want to accept that. So, well, I know the reason they probably wanted to decline, reduce their bid, fade their bid, is because the borrower's not paying. It's not a performing note as promised. Okay? It's not performing as promised. Now, is 40 such a bad deal? Because they were like, well, if you'll stick with your 40, we'll go ahead and move it, and you'll get 2 weeks to close on this, to go through everything. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can understand that. But if they're going to get angry about somebody fading a bit stuff. Now, taxes don't look like they're owed on this besides the current year, which is not a big deal. I ordered a BPO this morning early, so somebody's going out and hopefully looking this week, so I have a better idea. Now, if the value comes back above 56 or above 60, that's a good thing. I like that. If it comes back below 56 or 60, I'm not happy with that. All right? I'm not happy with the fact this is not performing. Now, what they said, I said, do you have any color on what happened with the borrower? And they said that the borrower was a first payment default, lost their job, and she's supposed to get back to work in June. I'm like, okay, what's August? I can understand people losing their job. This is why you always want to get more skin in the game. Getting a $2,000 down payment from this borrower, it was not a good thing to do. Okay? This is why we like seasoning, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we talked about before. I didn't like it that was brand new in March, but the ROI could offset it, provided the borrower is making payments. But the borrower is not making their $800 a month payment. The borrower is making 0 payments per month right now. And if they were out of work and were supposed to get hired back in June, or let's just say July, got hired back last month, have they reached out to do any sort of payment plan to get back on track? Look, I can forgive some stuff from a borrower being late. If they've lost their job, I can be flexible. I mean, Jesus, we went through COVID. We were giving people 90 to 180 day, forbearance plans to allow them to get back on track with things. But, if you're not going to make any payments, and now it's not a note that I want to take down because I don't want to pay an investor 8 to 12% on a non-performing note, especially if it becomes where it's now a skinny deal. If the value truly isn't 6 figures in 100, and look, if it's at 80, okay, value's at 80, that's not a bad thing. If it's at 60 and I'm paying 40, it's a little high at 67 cents on the dollar for a non-performing note. Now, if the value keeps going up, which hopefully it will, great. But if the borrower makes no payments, then I have to foreclose. They're now in serious default. They're now 6 months behind, and I now have to start the foreclosure process to take the property back. Am I going to get $110,000? Probably not. So this all weighs on one piece of documentation right now, right? The collection notes, there's not really any collection notes in here, okay? What really relies on any and everything, and here's the thing I don't like seeing, like NSFE, $20. That'd be the borrower tried to make a payment, a partial payment. ACA tried to make a partial payment for $50 or $55, and that bounced. Okay. Let's see, they made a payment for, on April 1st. Oh no, they made a payment on June 27th for $50, $55. And that check bounced. You know, if I could see a payment here for $400 and it went through, great, that's a good thing. Okay. If it didn't go through, that's not a good thing. So once again, it comes down to I'm buying a non-performing note that's occupied. It's basically been rehabbed based on what I can tell, but you got somebody living in it now that's now going to, I have to go through the foreclosure process if they're not going to make any type of mortgage payment. So if I'm into it at 80 now, let's go back to the calculation. Let's share this. Okay, so you should be able to see this now. All right. So now if I go down here to foreclosure, I bought it at 40, okay? Buy at 40, I'm into it at 47. The sales price, even if it's, let's just say it's 80, that's what we're shooting for. Net sales price 72, 47, I make 25 grand. It's a pretty good day after paying my investor 1 year, because it's probably going to take a year to foreclose. No, not that year, probably 6 to 12 months. If the bar's living in it but not doing anything, this is where cash for keys would make a whole lot more sense. Like, listen, I'll give you 2 grand to walk. I'll give you back the 2 grand you paid to get out of the property. That saves me from having to foreclose. You know, I'm still going to pay my investment, then I turn around and sell that property pretty much. So this is what it comes down to. Because if it's only worth 60, that's not a very good deal. 60, taking 10% off of that for closing costs and commissions, that's 54,000. You know, my costs are 47 that I'm into it. That's not going to change. So it's only about a $7,000 profit. That's not a very good deal. That's too skinny a deal, especially if they need any work or it needs any repairs, because it is a little bit older house, but it looked like they did a pretty good job. So that's where this whole BPO comes in. Right now, it's not a deal. It's a dud based on the December BPO in the collateral file. I need this property to go up and the comps around it to go up to make sense for me to go ahead and continue with the deal. Otherwise, if it's below 8, I mean, literally, if it's below, so let's see what if it is 70,000. Because I don't think it's gone up 20 grand in 6 months or 8 months. So if it goes up to 70, that's about a $16,000 profit. That's really probably the least I would do. Buy it at 40. No, it's worth 70. Hopefully, offer cash for keys to reduce my foreclosure costs and expedite the thing and go from there. Because listen, lady, and that's where I would go back to the bar. Like, borrower, listen, you haven't made a mortgage payment. You put 2 grand. I'm going to give you, to get out of the property, to give you back the 2 grand that you paid because you haven't done anything else with it. Okay. Now, I messaged the bar this morning. I said, have they made any type of payment or been any type of talk about payment arrangements? Because it's now the middle of August, right? And we'll see back. So literally, like I said, it comes down. This is why you order a BPO, an updated exterior BPO. This is why you look at the servicing notes to find out what's going on. And don't just trust what they say, because technically, this lender has lied about the deal. And they have lied since they listed the note for sale, saying it is a performing note, which it isn't. Okay. So why you always do due diligence and why you double check it. And this is also why one of the things I don't like about sometimes buying owner finance notes, because sellers will say one thing and it's actually another. You don't really see a lot that in the banking, in a lot of cases, buying bank notes. Now, they also have a couple other notes available for sale. Maybe I'll take a look at those. Maybe I can make a deal on those 2 so I can buy in 3 instead of just 1, and go from there. So this makes sense, everybody? Any questions, any comments, any concerns about this deal besides what I've already discussed? You know, and look, you're going to learn more by walking through a collateral file. I mean, I didn't even look at it. I mean, I looked at the documents. I'm not going to share with it. It looks like it's a very normal mortgage RMLO package. The bar had to qualify originally, which is good, but they now lost their job and haven't making payments. And that's a no-go. I mean, I'm glad to help people, but I want to if I'm going to buy a note and the idea is going to be performing, because right now it's not making any payments. Okay. So my only profit margin on this would be to get the bar back on track, which if they could, that's a great thing. I would love to see some actual notes of the bar outreach from Allied. Have they reached out to the bar? Have they done any of that stuff? Because it's based on what they were showing me there, I wasn't seeing any outreach, right? It's just basically servicing, no payments made, nothing received, and we don't want that, right, ladies and gentlemen? I don't. You know, I like performing. I also like non-performing. If I'm buying this, the idea to make cash flow, $400 a month or $600 a month is great, but I got to make sure this borrower does not pass that smell test. And this is why you got to get, I say 10% down if you're going to originate. Getting $2,000 down, not even 10%, that's a reason this is a first payment default, because if the borrower loses her job, she has no money to make. This is why you should require when you, I mean, look, owner financing, you're offering up an opportunity to people who can't get traditional financing. But this is why he's like, do you have the payments? Do you have 6 months of payments? You know, that 6 months of payment, do you have $5,000 sitting in the account somewhere? You know, like a reserve statement, reserve balance. This is what banks require. Hey, do you have a reserve 6 months? You can afford the payments if something happens. And this didn't happen. So, I mean, look, I get trying to help somebody, probably what, oh, we're going to make some good money and sell the note and make money. Well, if they're not making payments, you ain't selling a performing note at a good yield. So, like I said, we'll order the BPO. We'll see what happens. If the value comes back at 70 or greater, we'll proceed. If it comes back below 70, we're not going to proceed. And we'll go from there. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode, ladies and gentlemen. You learn a lot. And that's why you always look at the due diligence file. And following up with them doesn't necessarily, you know, following up with your bidders, this is a lesson. If somebody doesn't respond to you, don't give up in 2 weeks, follow up. Because maybe this is, we could work something out. Maybe I come back to them once the BPO says something like, hey, your values are coming back in low. It's not worth what you sold it for. Let's work something out here. Where are you at? Okay. Would you be willing to finance the note purchase to me? That's something to think about. Would you be willing to finance that purchase of this note to me? And then we go through the process. So I'm going to come to the table with a ton of money. I just got to come to the table with the legal. And then we, in that case, we finish the foreclosure. And then we could turn this into an RML loan. I mean, not an RML loan, but a hard money loan that it turns to a first trust deed while we turn around and sell the property, if it makes sense. That's something to think about. This guy or gal that they owner finance the borrower, well, would you be willing to owner finance the note purchase to me? And we go through the legal process to foreclose. They probably won't, but you never know unless you ask, right, ladies and gentlemen? So hopefully you found this valuable, guys. We've got more case studies. We've got some great stuff coming up here. Our next episode released is our 1,000th episode. It's hard to believe that. And you know, it's great about social media is on Friday or Saturday morning, get alert that 6 years ago was our 500th episode. And so very excited about the 1,000th episode upcoming here. We'll be releasing, we did a kind of a guest interview with Tom and Tracy Hazard, some really good friends helped me launch the podcast. And I think it's a great episode you'll like. Also, for those of you that are toying around with our AI clone, thank you. Keep checking that out. For those that are spending time, if it tells you that you've run out of credits, if you log into Google, it'll allow you to use a little bit more. All right. So some people are like, well, it wanted me to time out. Well, you got to log in. It's got to track it. It wants to track you. I get it, but everything does that. So thank you for those guys that are going in there, spend time on it. I'm going back and looking at every question people are asking, making sure it sounds like me, it talks like me, it quacks like me, and it's doing that. So once again, check that out. We'll put the link in the description here for our AI clone, delphi.ai/Scott Carson. So anyway, guys, if you have any questions about deals, cases you're working through, I'm glad to go through with you. Glad to walk you through the process of the due diligence side and hold your hand through your first note purchase. So go out, take some action, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you at the top. Bye, everybody. Hey, real estate investors. So you want to dive into the world of note investing, but don't currently have the funds to sign up for an expensive class or a workshop or one-on-one coaching. Well, then you definitely want to check out the biggest bang for your buck in the note world, and that's our WCN membership. It get you an all-you-can-learn access to our class workshop replays, tapes, weekly coaching calls. For $97 a month, it's the biggest bang in the note industry because you get access weekly with me. You can book one-on-one phone calls with me. As we get different tapes in, we'll share them with our members after our one-on-one coaching students get access to us. We share a variety of tools, like I said, replays to the previous workshop, special discount codes to other events that you can take advantage of to help you get more bang out of your dollar every month. We've been investing in notes for over 20 years, and one of my biggest passions is helping note investors, big and small, get started buying notes. Yes, I got started years ago with no money, no savings, and no list. And I love helping people close on their first deal, get their first private funding partner to help them fund more deals and help them both make above average returns. If you're looking for somebody to help you take your note investing from 0 to 60 and want to get started, my WCN membership is a great place to get started. Like I said, we upload lists to it, video training, coaching calls for $97 a month. What can go wrong? The only thing we ask is you hang around for 6 months, and then if you don't like it, you can cancel. But check it out at noteumbrella.com. That's noteumbrella.com. That's our WCN membership. Get looking at assets today. Start putting your fingers on the trigger to pull the trigger on some note deals here before too long. Yes, anybody can buy notes. I don't care your age, your savings, what race, color, whatever it is. Note investing is all about what action you take, and the first action you should take is signing up for our monthly membership at $97 a month. That's noteumbrella.com. You can also access it by going to weekclosenotes.com and checking on the monthly membership. But we are here to help you. Scott Carson, the Note Guy. We look forward to seeing you at the top.